Good morning. I'm George MacIntyre, Product Manager for CASE Construction Equipment.
And I'm Richie Snyder, Marketing Manager with Precision Solutions and Telematics.
Thank you for joining us today. We know you have busy schedules, and we appreciate you taking the time to join us. Richie and I are excited to be here today to talk to you about some things that you can do to look at optimizing your business. We know that a skid steer or CTL, in many cases for new landscapers, is the first major investment in the business. And we also know that the skid steer and CTL is a very powerful tool, and it allows you to do, whether it's loading or unloading trucks, fine grading, or hardscapes. It's a very versatile tool. It allows you to do a lot of different things. We're going to explore ways to optimize your business today. We want to look at ways you can get the most out of your investments, whether it's in skid steers or attachments or other tools. Also, we want to look at how you can be more efficient and get more work done throughout your day. So the main focus today will be how you can get more out of your investment.
You know, with the trade shows being canceled this year, George and I wanted to be in front of you still and take this opportunity to do a live interactive format. We're going to be answering a lot of those questions and discussions that George mentioned. But at the end of the show, we're going to open it up live to you guys for any questions that you may have. So on your screen on the right-hand side, there's a chat box. So please, at any time that we're presenting today, if you have a question, just go ahead and type it in there, and then we'll answer it at the conclusion of the presentation. George, we're standing in front of this TV 450B. Can you tell me some of the ways that we've made this simpler to operate?
Yeah, sure, Richie. So we actually launched the new B Series skid steers and CTLs earlier this year. Really proud of this new product that we have, and we really put an emphasis on making it simpler to operate. One of the ways we've done that is with the new electro-hydraulic controls. We made it easier to actually dial into machine preferences. So there's an intuitive main screen that you come to, and you're able to dial into the settings that are available for the job at hand. So whether you're in low setting, medium, or high setting, you're able to actually set the machine configuration to what you're doing. So low setting would be appropriate if you're in a situation where you need precision, and maybe you're working up against the curb where you want the settings to be a little bit slower. That would be the appropriate setting there. When you're doing, say, truck loading, where you want faster cycle times, then you'd go into the high setting type. Also, we have a custom setting, and with the custom setting, it allows you to really dial into what you want in terms of controls and speed for the tilt, for the loader, for the drive system. And the really nice thing about the new B Series and the way we have it set up is we have user codes, operator codes, that can be tied to an individual operator. And with that, they're able to save their settings. So say they prefer to have it in a certain setting, it'll stay there as a default. And when they get into the machine the next time, after their colleague or their coworker actually operated the machine, it will save those settings.
Awesome. So I can get back in and really have it customized to how I want to operate.
Absolutely, yes.
Very cool. So our machines have always been pretty efficient. What have we done with the B Series to make it even more efficient and user-friendly?
Okay. Well, yeah, we know that time is money, and we also know that one of the areas that we're looking at is in terms of fuel savings, economy modes, and those sorts of things. So many times operators will, when we talk about fuel savings, will just say, well, yeah, fuel's pretty cheap and so on. But there's actually a lot more to it than just fuel savings. So if you can operate that machine less or have it running less time, particularly when, say, you're idling, one of the advantages of that is you're not burning hours against your warranty. If you have a lease, you're not burning hours against that lease. So we've actually incorporated different economy settings, one being an economy timer, which you'd also call auto idle shutdown. And with that, what it does is it'll actually shut the machine down after a period of time when you're at idle. So it's actually selectable from 5 to 30 minutes in 5-minute increments. And at that point, it'll automatically shut that machine down. Tied in with that, we have another feature that's called ignition timeout. And what that does, it's increments of 10 to 60 minutes. And with that, it'll actually shut the power down in the system so you don't drain your battery. And then finally, with our economy settings, we have a protection system for the engine. So this came at the request of customers. They wanted to make sure that, that they protect their asset. And what that does is if the machine gets outside of acceptable parameters, 3 particular parameters we're looking at in particular. One is the engine coolant temperature, another is the hydraulic coolant temperature, and also the engine oil pressure. If at any time the machine gets outside those safe settings that we have, those parameters, what it will do is it'll actually shut the machine down in order to save that engine so you don't have a catastrophic failure.
Oh, very cool. Very cool. So, we're an aware operator is an efficient operator. What are some of the other improvements that we've done on the B series or enhancements rather, to make the operator more aware of his surroundings, his or her surroundings, excuse me?
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Richie. So we take a lot of pride at CASE and a lot of emphasis in our product design in the area of visibility around the machine. So as far as awareness goes, that is critical. Being able to see 360 degrees around the machine to see where there are obstacles there are in the job site. With the new B series launch, one of the particular areas we focused on is visibility out the rear. And with that, with the electro-hydraulic control units, we have a backup camera with a display screen as standard. It's an 8-inch LCD multi-function display screen. And with that, we have exclusive technology where we have the backup camera on the top half of the screen. And at the same time, at the bottom half of the same screen, we have machine status settings. So whether that's fuel level, RPMs. One of the great things about that, the way that's set up is, and again, this is an exclusive for CASE, is you're actually able to see at the top half of the screen, you have your backup camera, and at the same time, you can see those critical machine settings.
So as the operator sitting in the machine, I can basically see all the important stuff around me, what's going on with the machine, plus what's going on the job site behind and around me then.
Yeah, absolutely, Richie. And another thing we have also maintained, even though we added the backup camera, we did not take out the standard rear view mirror that we have, which gives great visibility, not only out the rear, but actually out the corners on the side windows.
Awesome. What can you tell me about attachment operation? How have we made that simpler for an operator?
Okay. One of the new features we've incorporated with the B series is a creep speed mode. And that allows you to independently operate the speed on both the drive itself as well as the attachment. We've set it up to have maximum precision with it. So we have increments in there of 1 to 100, which allows the operator, if they're operating an attachment, say like a broom, to really dial into a very precise speed.
Awesome. So in my mind, I guess the skid steer is kind of like, or the compact track loader, it's kind of like a Swiss Army knife, right? So when we add additional attachments, we add capabilities to the machine that allow the contractor, the landscaper to be more versatile in his product offering, it sounds like.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So that, if I'm thinking right, having more attachments, having that ability will allow him to be, or her to be more, bid more jobs, be doing different work maybe than what they were just typically doing, and having the machine operate. We're here in the Midwest, and a lot of times machines might sit idle for 3 months, 4 months while the snow's flying, and they can't do their dirt job. But if they add a different type of attachment, they can gain different work, because an idle machine doesn't make money, right?
That's right.
So with that being said, can you tell me some of the keys, some of the high level, most popular attachments that we offer?
Yes, so sure, Richie. So CASE offers numerous attachments. We're only going to touch on a few of the key ones for landscapers today. One would be a soil preparator, or it's also called a soil cultivator. The brand name that people sometimes mention is the Harley rake. So with those, it allows you to prepare, final grades and seed beds. It's a really versatile attachment for landscapers. You'll see them very often used for soil preparation. So that's a really key attachment for a landscaper. Another versatile attachment that's offered is a 4-in-1 bucket. This particular attachment is really regionalized. So we see a lot of orders come in for 4-in-1 buckets in the northern regions as well as Canada. But it's really an attachment I would promote to anybody to use, whatever region you're in the country. It's really a valuable attachment because that 4-in-1 means that you really have 4 different uses for it. It's not just a bucket, so that's the first one. It's also a clamshell grapple. It's also a dozer blade, and it's also a scraper. So it gives you a lot of versatility. And when you see a mature operator that uses that particular attachment, they can really get a lot of work done with it. So as we're talking about attachments, I do want to call out one thing. It's really important to, when you're looking at what you're going to do for a purchase of an attachment, to take into account the billable hours. You know, what am I going to get out of my investment if I invest in this particular attachment? So that's one way to look at any purchases for your business as a landscaper. Another attachment that's quite common, it's a very simple attachment, is an auger attachment. So auger attachments are good for, you know, digging holes for fence posts, also for digging holes for, you know, putting plants in or trees. We also know that as contractors, especially in your northern climates, you want to be operating all year, whereas in southern climates, you may be able to do your regular business throughout the year. But in northern climates, a lot of landscapers, as we know, do snow removal. I mean, that's a big part of the business, especially up here in Wisconsin and the northern latitudes. So with that, there's different types of snow equipment that's available. We really like the sectional snow pushes, such as this Arctic snow push that's shown on the screen here. The nice thing about the sectional snow pushes is each section's independent, and it allows more flexibility for that attachment as it goes over manhole covers or curbs. It'll break away separately from the rest of the snow push. Other snow attachments are snow blowers. There's various different ones out there to help with the business. So also, I'm sorry,
nope.
Richie. So another attachment I just want to touch on real quick is mulching heads. So it's really a natural offshoot for a lot of businesses is land clearing. So we're seeing a lot of landscapers are actually going into land clearing more than what they've done in the past. And that's because of the versatility of this particular attachment.
I was just going to mention, George, you were talking about you know, the hydraulics. So it's really important that customers probably partner with their dealer and not only look at what jobs I have today, but what I plan to do later on, so that they spec the machine out right.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very important to take into consideration when you're looking at purchasing a piece of equipment like that. What are my future years going to be? My future needs going to be? So it's not only what needs I have right now, but down the road, say 5 years, 10 years from now, what are the things that I'm going to need for this piece of equipment? One of the key areas for a skid steer CTL is, of course, the auxiliary hydraulics. So all of our equipment comes standard with standard auxiliary hydraulics, which gives you about 24 gallons of flow out the end of the coupler. But we also offer high flow systems. And we actually offer 2 different high flow systems. We offer a standard high flow system as well as an enhanced high flow system. And with that enhanced high flow system, it gives you high pressure and high flow at the same time. So there's certain attachments that really work well with that. One being the mulching head that we had just discussed.
Sure. Yeah. Great. You know, one of the attachments that we have right here behind us is the CASE laser grading box. This attachment not only will allow the operator to cut as he's going forward, but it also cuts when he's back dragging as well. So it's got dual cutting edges. You notice that it's got dual laser receivers on it. So one is going to control the elevation and the other one's going to control the slope. So it can really get in and do some fine grading for the operator. Some of the advantages are going to get him or her down to grade quicker. What they're typically doing is setting up a rotating laser that gives them their benchmark, and then they can control the depth of cut or the slope right from inside the cab, making the grade quicker, more precise. When they're doing a hardscape, such as a patio or a driveway, sidewalks, it will allow them to not only put the slope correctly, but also the aggregate, the subgrade. They can spread that out much more efficiently. With this, it gives an operator the opportunity to grow his business, maybe into something that he hasn't done in the past, such as maybe a sports field or something that's kind of outside of their normal operation. Speaking of that, we've got our 2019 Kickstart winner, Jeff Roush from Daybreaker Landscaping, here with us today. Jeff, I appreciate you taking the time to come here, bring in your machine with the laser grading box. Can you briefly tell me how this has helped your business be more efficient, be more productive, or just grow in general?
Yeah, it's actually been tremendously helpful. We really wanted to expand more into the construction side when I took possession of this machine, and this has really enabled us to do that in terms of grading the driveways and the patios. It's made a tremendous difference in our efficiency, and I've been able to take an operator who doesn't really have a lot of experience with grading, operating a machine on its own, a green operator, if you will, and train them how to operate this in less than half of a day, really. I mean, I've been able to put them in there, get them going with the grading and have it be as precise as we need it to be, which of course is very important for like a driveway or a patio. Everything has to be pretty precise because otherwise you're going to have failure points.
Right. So a green operator, you'd say that it's a simple operation. It's very easy to learn. The learning curve isn't that it's going to take a guy months or weeks to get the hang of. You said about a half an hour, a half a day?
Yeah, very much so. In fact, one of the operators that I trained on this box this particular year had never even run a skid loader, much less done any grading. And I was able to, once he was comfortable with the operation of the actual skid loader, I was able to then train him on how to activate the grade box, and I had him grading within half a day. It was pretty remarkable, actually, and he did a fantastic job, and the machine did what it was supposed to do, and we were precise within an eighth of an inch of where we needed to be.
Perfect. So, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it sounds like that a green operator may take a lot longer to get the project done or the job done. Have you noticed efficiencies on how you're able to complete a job and go on to the next one?
Oh yeah, because we actually did a lot of work prior to having this machine. We did it the traditional methods, which was somebody was out there with a receiver rod and a laser checking grades, and then there was an operator with just usually a standard skid steer bucket on the front of it.
Sure.
Grading and making adjustments based on what the operator with the grade rod was telling him to do. But obviously that's not a very precise way to do things. And it really takes somebody who's really skilled, who has a lot of experience doing that, to be really good at it. Someone who doesn't have a lot of experience, that doesn't have an eye for it,
Sure.
It's very difficult for someone to get it just how it needs to be. And with this, you don't have to worry about any of that because the machine takes all the guesswork out of it.
That's fantastic. Jeff, I really appreciate you taking the time this morning and coming in and bringing in your machine and talking to us.
No problem.
So thank you. One other thing that I'd like to touch on is telematics. SiteWatch Telematics is available for all of our machines. The B series is actually built telematics ready. So the modems and telematics can be installed either at the factory at the time of order, or it can be installed at the dealership. Telematics is one of those things that a lot of people might think about and overlook. It really helps you as a contractor and operator with your uptime. Someone such as Jeff may not afford the luxury of having a fleet manager. They can partner with their CASE dealer and have a second set of eyes almost to look over their machine, let them know of any upcoming maintenances that need to be done so they can get that scheduled and avoid any downtime that might happen. Some of the other features with SiteWatch is reporting capabilities. George mentioned fuel consumption and utilization. That's important for bidding a job and knowing how much fuel you're actually burning on a typical job site. So when you are bidding for new jobs, you have that information right there at your hands, as well as being notified if the machine is used when it's not supposed to be used. If it's after hours and someone decides to move your machine, when it's left at a job site, you would be alerted and know when that machine is being used without your authorization. So with that, I kind of went through some things, and I hope you enjoyed our presentation. I'd like to open it up to any questions that may have come in.
Yeah, and good morning, everybody. Thank you again for joining us here today. Thank you, Richie and George, for your time. Jeff as well. Good to see you again, sir. We do have some questions that have come in from the audience here, and I would just take a moment here to encourage people. You'll see on that right-hand side of your screen, you'll see that there's a chat box there. If you enter your question there, we'll pose it to the gentleman here. And those questions that we don't get to during the course of the event here today, we'll follow up with people after this show. So first question here that came in, and this one would be for George. George, what is the biggest difference really between a 74 horsepower machine and a 90 horsepower machine? What are people going to see there?
Okay. Yeah. So if you look at the offering that we have, the 74 horsepower versus the 90 horsepower units, really, there's a split today because of engine emissions regulations through the EPA and CARB, where we have a different standard on 74 horsepower units and below. And what that does is it gives us the flexibility to offer a unit without selective catalytic reduction, so an SCR system with DEF fluid. So we do find that many contractors are wanting to avoid that. So we have seen that a lot of the customer base has moved to 74 horsepower units for that reason. And what we've done is we've actually added models into lineup to allow them to have models that actually have higher rated operating capacity. So a more recent launch for us was the TV370B, which gives you a higher rated operating capacity than what we did in the past with 74 horsepower. So you don't have the DEF fluid needed for that particular configuration. With that said, there is a need for the higher horsepower units at 90 horsepower. So for many applications, you do want to have the higher horsepower available. So we do have that available on our larger machines. So the TV450 behind me is a great model for landscaping, and it actually is a really good model if you're going to do things like operating a mulching head attachment, for instance, because it does have that higher horsepower setting.
Perfect. Thank you, George. Question that just came in from Tomas. Tomas, are the machines attachments presented currently available at your local dealer, or do you foresee any not being in stock due to high demand? I think the nature of the question there is these are interesting times we live in right now. Right. Are there some attachments that we talked about here that might have availability issues, or are there some other attachments that might be harder to find?
Well, it's going to depend on the individual dealer, what they're going to have in stock. But we at CASE, we do keep all the higher volume attachments are in stock at our depots and available for ordering from the dealer. So even if they don't have it in stock, it is orderable through us where they can get in a reasonable amount of time quickly.
Awesome. Ricardo has chimed in. When in creep mode, are there any limitations in RPMs? And also, is the foot throttle still active to increase RPMs?
Yes. So both the hand throttle, so it's a hand dial that we have on the new B series, and the foot throttle is active when you are in that creep mode. So that's the great thing about it. You can dial in your RPMs to exactly what that attachment requires for power.
Excellent. Richie, this question has come in for you. What other compact equipment it is capable of running with Precision Solutions?
You know, the Precision Solutions, in my opinion, anything that moves dirt has the ability to have precision on it. When we're speaking of compact equipment, the first things come in my mind besides the machine behind me is a mini excavator. We have solutions that are available, again, through a certified CASE dealer. I want to mention that here in just a second. But we have 1D, 2D, and 3D solutions that are available for any particular model, whether it's compact or even the heavy equipment. So we do have solutions available. And I mentioned the certified dealer. The question a second ago was about attachments. The laser grading box behind me is available through our certified network. So we want to ensure that we have support at the dealership level to support you as the customer out in the field. So those are available through the certified network.
Excellent. Question here for George. George, can I run an attachment on standard flow if it's meant to be run on high flow or not?
Yes. So if you look at the attachment versus what the machine flow is, yes, it's probably possible to operate your attachment at a lower flow rating, but it's certainly not recommended. You really want to match that attachment, and each one of the attachments has a flow rating that's recommended. So you want to match that with the machine itself and what the hydraulic system is.
Excellent. Another question that has come in here, and this is, I think, a clarification on something we talked about earlier. George, are there backup cameras on all CASE skid steers and CTLs?
So we do offer the backup camera with that LCD display as standard equipment with the electro-hydraulic controls. So anytime electro-hydraulic controls, EH controls is ordered, you will get that backup camera creep mode as well as a display. We also have in our offering a mechanical control units. So with the mechanical control versions, we have the old H pattern CASE style controls, hand controls that are available, as well as hand and foot controls available with mechanical linkage control system.
Excellent.
And with that, I should mention one more thing, Bill. So if with the mechanical control versions, we still offer the display and backup camera. It's just an option at that point.
Excellent. This might be a controversial one, and actually Jeff, our Kickstart winner here, might want to chime in as well. Which is better for snow plowing, skid steers or CTLs?
So we generally would recommend skid steers for snow plowing operations just because of the higher ground speed. And if you're working on those hard surfaces, they generally perform very well. But we know some of the larger landscapers that are running a lot of snow equipment, they've actually converted some of their fleets to CTLs. So we know CTLs give a lot more stability. It's more comfortable to operate because of the tracks on the ground, and there's some advantages as far as ground pressure goes. So actually you can use both, but generally what we've seen is more usage with skid steers because of the ground speed.
Excellent. A question has come in back to hydraulics again. I'm not sure if it was mentioned. Does CASE offer high pressure, high flow capabilities? We've seen additional attachments that require high pressure operation. If so, what attachments are seeing that type of requirement? And do they require special consideration during operation?
Yeah, so the primary, we do offer two different high flow systems today. We call, the one high flow system is the standard high flow. And then on our 90 horsepower models, we also offer, in addition to the standard high flow, an enhanced high flow system. So for the TV450 behind me, the standard pressure rating on that model is 3,450 PSI. But when you go to an enhanced high flow system, it goes to 4,000 PSI with a flow rating of about 35 gallons per minute. And that's optimized for certain attachments, one being the mulching head attachment we talked about, but also things like cold planers or other high power attachments that would partner with that enhanced high flow system very well.
Excellent. We've got a lot of good questions coming in here. We're going to take questions for at least another 5 minutes or so. Okay. But if you keep them coming in, we will take as many questions as we can here. This one would be for Richie. Richie, telematics on skid steers and CTLs, older generation. Can you retrofit telematics onto an older skid steer CTL?
That's a great question. We absolutely can. We have kits available through the dealer network that we can outfit basically anything that operates under its own power. So the machines that are being built today are pre-wired with the telematics hardware. The wiring harnesses are there, so we just need to complete it. An older machine, a legacy machine, that didn't have that pre-wiring already done, we can add to it at any time. So yes, to answer your question, we absolutely can install telematics on an older skid steer.
Excellent. Another question has come in. The backup camera has been pretty popular. Question regarding the backup camera, George. How is the backup camera display with working in low light or dark situations?
Okay, yes, good question. So during the development of the B Series program, we were looking at finding the optimal placement of where the display screen is within the cab to allow the best viewing of the screen. So actually the way the monitor is positioned inside the cab gives the best viewing to block out the outside light that's coming through there for best visibility.
Excellent. The next, we get this question a lot. I hesitate to ask it, but I'm going to throw it out there. Are we ever bringing the 1845 back?
Yes, we hear that all the time. That workhorse of a machine, the 1845. We still see a lot of the 1845s out there on job sites today, and I can't tell you how many trade shows I've gone to in the past where customers ask about that unit and bringing it back. We are not bringing that back. It is part of the core of that unit has been what's been brought over into the B series and Alpha series before that.
Good old legacy machines, still proving their worth in the field today. Question in for Jeff with Daybreaker Landscapes. Jeff, in your career, and this, I suppose this could be equipment related or not. In your career now, what are some of the things that you've learned that have been the most important lessons to you?
Well, I've had one of the challenges that we faced when I started was finding, skilled labor. So one of the things that I've really focused on is looking what's available in terms of machines and automation that can maybe replace those laborers that you would otherwise need. The grade box being a perfect example of that. Before I had the grade box, we did projects like a driveway that required we had to have probably 4 or 5 men on the job to be able to complete it because we're doing most of the work by hand. But now one person can come in with the machine once the machine's set up and can do all that work, not only in a fraction of the time, but can do it, by himself. So it eliminates the need to have as many employees. So that's really something I've really focused on is what can I automate and what machines available to do the job instead of having to finding a group of people to do the work.
And Jeff, another question that has come in for you, just because I know our camera's on Jeff right now. Jeff, for a landscaper, do you prefer radial arm versus vertical? And if so, what difference do you see? That it should be noted that machine behind Jeff is his TR340, which is a radial machine. Do you have any preferences in the arm design?
I actually have used both, and I have both. I actually have found for the ground engaging activities that the radial machine seems to be a better machine for any time that you're engaging with the ground, be it digging or using the grade box, things like that. Anything where you're going to be doing a lot of groundwork. In terms of loading trucks, the vertical machine does have a little bit of an advantage because of the being able to get up and over. But I load semis with this truck all the time, or this machine all the time, and I've never had any issues with it. I tend to favor the radial machines, I would say.
Excellent. Question coming in for Mr. Richie Snyder on the topic again of precision. Richie, if I want to finance a precision tool like that laser grading box, do I have options for financing precision tools?
You absolutely do. Fantastic timing. Great question. We have currently there's low rate financing available for precision products through CNH Capital. So there are options there that you can finance it at either a very, very low rate or even sometimes 0%, allowing you to put more money go into your principal purchase in operations rather than going to paying overhead on interest rates. So there are definitely options that are available for you. And
Laura, I'm not forgetting your question. You asked a very good question, but I'm going to save it to the end here because I'm interested to hear what the gentlemen say. George, any other attachments for landscapers that we haven't talked about today that you think are something that might be unique that they don't usually look into?
Oh, sure, Bill. Yeah. So if you look at different attachments that would also be useful for landscapers, one that comes to mind, of course, is pallet forks. I think about just any operation that you may have would be useful to have pallet forks for. Other attachments, there's various different grapples that are available that can meet the needs of what you're doing for your jobs. Also, if it's a more specialized type of attachment, but if you're doing any silt fence installing, there's a silt fence installer that's available. There's also other complementary pieces of attachments that are available, such as stump grinders that you may have use for on different jobs as well. So it's really good to look at the wide range of attachments that are available and see what uses you could have for it. And again, getting back to that billable hours, what is this going to do for my business?
Excellent. Richie, a question for you, but Jeff, you might have some opinions on this too, especially with your recent experience with the laser grading box. Is machine control GPS hard to learn for landscapers? What I think the question they're getting at there is there a learning curve? Is it difficult, or is it something that can actually be embraced pretty quickly?
Yes, that's great. That comes up quite a bit. It's not just for large contractors. Machine control is perfect for even the smallest of contractors, a single man operation. It's very simplistic. It's very scalable. So as the job develops, as the experience develops, the machine control system can be scaled to fit their needs or your needs at that time. But to answer the question, it's very simple to operate. It's very intuitive, just with some real basic knowledge of what you're trying to accomplish. Jeff mentioned earlier about having a green operator, and maybe you can elaborate a little bit more on your experience with that and having the guide that you just gave the machine to and a little bit of coaching.
Yeah, I mean, probably the most complex part of it is just learning how to operate a laser level, which of course, even that it's not very difficult to figure out. And then of course, the documentation that's provided with this is very useful. If you read through that, it basically tells you everything you need to know about basic operation of the grade box. And you know, once they understood the concept of how the laser level worked, putting them in and going over the basic controls, it's pretty easy. It's just pushing a few switches and pushing a few buttons, and then the machine does the rest. And then watching the display screen, it's pretty intuitive and tells you exactly what the grade box is doing. Tells you if you're out of range, so that you're not going for an extended period of time if it's not reading the laser for some reason, if there's an obstruction, something like that.
Sure. Everything's
very intuitive, very user-friendly.
Perfect.
This is we're coming into a two-part question from Ricardo. And at first he asked, Richie, can the blade be used as a dozer blade until fine grading? And then he further clarifies that question with, in other words, can the wheels be taken off and used as a dozer blade?
The wheels on this machine, they're there for a specific reason. So we don't want to take them off. They're going to help balance out the blade. So I wouldn't recommend taking the wheels off. They are foam filled, so you shouldn't worry about getting a flat tire. But the wheels are there for a reason. We should keep the wheels on and use the blade to push the material. Can you use it to push a lot of material like a dozer blade? You could. It does have a cutting edge that will make things nice and smooth. But as far as taking the wheels off and just using it as a straight push blade, that's not something that I would recommend.
Yeah, and there's certainly other attachments that are available for that. There's actual dozer blade attachments. People have heard a lot about the DL550, the Project Minotaur, which there's been a couple questions on that that have come in here. We'll have news on that soon. But I think in follow-up to Ricardo's question there, and this is me asking this question, is that suitable if you wanted to truly push a higher volume of material, not worry about the grade? You know, can you turn the GPS piece of it off and just use it as a pusher, or does it have to be engaged with the GPS pieces of it?
It's a precision piece of equipment, so we would want to utilize it with either a laser or GPS. Can you push a lot of material? Yes, but really it's designed to work in harmony with the machine control system.
Excellent. I'm going to do a last call on questions here. We're gonna take one or two more, and if you have a question, get it in now. There's a few questions that have come in that are more complex than we can do in a webcast here today. So we'll follow up. George and Richie will follow up with you guys after that. If Laura, and maybe this is if we don't get any additional questions in, maybe this will be our last question of the day. And this was a little bit self-serving for CASE. Laura says there have been a lot of features that have been covered, and I realize that you aren't the marketing department, but what truly differentiates these machines attachments from the competition, if you had to point out one thing to a customer, what is the thing that differentiates the CASE product here?
Yeah, I would say that we take a lot of pride in visibility. So our whole design is geared around making sure you have good visibility, 360 degrees around the machine. With our most recent updates with the B series, probably the main feature that really sets us apart would be that backup camera being in the split screen, being able to see your machine settings, where you're at with the status of the machine. At the same time, you can see the work site behind you.
From a precision point of view, I would rely and I would pound my chest on our scalability. The fact that it can grow as your business grows and just add more features to what you already have rather than starting over. It's truly a scalable option that has a great return on investment.
Two quick questions coming in here under the wire here. The 74 and 90 horsepower machines, do we deal with any regen?
For the CASE lineup today, we do not have regen in any of the models except for our smallest model, which is the SR160B. The entire rest of the lineup, the other 13 models, do not have regen.
And this is, again, a self-serving comment. We just had one of our dealer salesmen from around the country just chimed in. He says, I've sold the TV450 Alpha and B series both this week. They are beasts. Thank you for that note. One last question here on hydraulics that have come in. What additional equipment is required when using high flow or even the high pressure version like auxiliary coolers or something else? I think what they're asking is, are there any additional considerations?
Oh, yes, absolutely. There are additional considerations. We know in some high ambient temperature states such as Texas, we do see dealers and customers putting additional coolers on there. But the system that we have, the way it's set up, is to give the cooling performance that you need for the attachments you have, knowing that there are other coolers that are add-ons that customers will add on to their machines.
Excellent. And one last question. We touched on it a little bit, but I'm going to throw it in here at the end. Our telematics standard.
Telematics on the B series skid steers are not standard. It is an optional add that, like I said before, can be done at the factory at point of order, or it can be installed at the dealership. What is standard is the wiring harnesses that are in the machines, so they are ready. They are telematics ready right off the assembly line.
Excellent. And again, there's a couple questions here that we have that I think are more complex than what we'll cover here in this webcast today. With that, Richie, George, any closing statements, any other thoughts after the questions that have come in here today, or have we summed the topic of optimizing skid steers and CTLs up pretty well?
I think that we've summed it up pretty well for what we look to accomplish today. Please look forward to more of these types of forums coming in the future. We really do miss the trade shows, and George and I miss being out in front of customers and talking to you and learning your experiences. So look forward to doing more of these in the future on other products. And that's, you know, George, I'll pass it back to you. If
yeah, absolutely. And again, thank you for your time. We know your schedules are very busy. This is a good venue for us to be able to get the word out on what's going on in the industry and to communicate with each other, especially as Bill or I think Richie mentioned earlier that we're not able to go to the trade shows. A lot of the trade shows are closed down due to COVID. But we do plan to do more of these, as Richie mentioned, and we appreciate your time today.
And with that, I think I'll say stay tuned, and that we'll be announcing the next one here in the next few days. Thank you all for joining us here today. And we will talk to you all very soon. Thanks again. And thank you, George, Jeff, and Richie. Thank you all.